I always knew I was second best in my parents' eyes. It wasn't something they ever said out loud, but I could feel it in the way they acted, in the things they said, or didn't say. But even with all that, I never thought they'd actually miss my wedding. My name is Olivia, and this is the story of how my parents' idea of a perfect family finally broke, starting with an empty front row at what should have been the happiest day of my life. Growing up, it was obvious that my younger sister Kate was the favorite. She was the one everyone paid attention to. If she got an A in math, we went out for dinner to celebrate. If I made valedictorian, I got a quick, "Good job, honey," followed by something like, "Did you hear Kate made the junior varsity tennis team?" It wasn't that Kate was mean or cruel, she wasn't. She just lived in a different world than I did, one where every step she took was celebrated and remembered. I, on the other hand, learned how to be proud of myself in silence. Maybe that's why I became an event planner. There's something satisfying about creating magical, perfect moments for other people, even if I was used to having mine ignored. By 28, I had a growing business. I planned high-end weddings, galas, and events across the city. People respected me, clients loved me. My parents barely noticed. They were still too focused on Kate, who by then had changed her college major 3 times and was still figuring out what she wanted to do with her life. Then I met Daniel. He came into my life as a client. He needed help planning a charity event for his hospital. He's a pediatric doctor. I still remember our first meeting. He came rushing into my office, late after a surgery, his tie crooked and his hair slightly messy. "I'm so sorry," he said, out of breath. "Tiny humans don't care about schedules." I laughed, and something about him felt different. He was kind, warm, and real. That meeting turned into 2 hours of talking, not just about the gala, but about our lives. I told him things I usually kept buried deep inside, like how it felt to grow up in Kate's shadow. He listened quietly and said, "That sounds really lonely." No one had ever said that before, not even me. Before long, we were dating. 6 months later, we moved in together. Daniel didn't just love me, he saw me. He supported my dreams, celebrated my wins, and made me feel like I actually mattered. When he proposed, it was perfect, simple and thoughtful, just like him. We were sitting on our balcony after I had a rough day with a difficult client. He handed me takeout, looked at me, and said, "You spend your life making other people's special moments perfect. Maybe it's time someone did that for you." Then he pulled out a ring, his grandmother's vintage sapphire, reset into a modern design. I was already saying yes before he finished asking. The next morning, I called my mom to tell her. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," she said flatly, "but listen, can I call you back? Kate just got some exciting news. She's finally going to graduate." Kate was 25 and had been in college for 7 years. She'd changed majors so many times, no one was sure what her degree was in anymore. Apparently, she had finally completed enough credits to qualify. "That's great, Mom," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "But about the wedding? We'll talk soon, sweetie. Kate needs help planning her graduation party. This is such a big step for her. You know how hard it's been." I hung up the phone and sat quietly, hurt. When Daniel saw my face, he pulled me into a hug and whispered, "They don't deserve you." I pushed the pain down and threw myself into wedding planning. As one of the top planners in the city, I had access to the best of everything: venues, designers, florists. I picked May 20th for the date. The weather would be perfect for a garden ceremony. I told my parents the date during dinner one night, 6 months in advance. "May 20th, I said, "the save the dates are already sent." My mom froze, and her fork clattered onto her plate. "Oh no," she said. I looked at both of them, and that old, familiar feeling of dread started in my stomach. "That's Kate's graduation weekend," Dad said. "Her ceremony is Saturday morning. But the wedding is at 4 p.m. I said quickly, "You could do both." "Honey," Mom said in her reasonable voice, "the graduation is in Boston. We need to be there early to help her get ready, attend the ceremony, and stay for the party afterward. We just won't be able to make it back in time." "Then skip the graduation and come to the wedding," I said. My voice was small, like I already knew what they would say. Dad sighed. "This is a big deal for Kate. She's worked so hard. You understand, don't you? You're always the strong one." There it was again, the same excuse I'd heard my entire life. "Can't Kate graduate on a different date?" I asked. Most schools have multiple ceremonies. We can't ask her to do that, Mom said firmly. She wants to graduate with her friends. You know how much she struggles with change. I looked at Kate. She was unusually quiet, staring at her plate. What do you think, Kate? I asked. She looked up, then back down. I mean, I've worked really hard for this. And I haven't, I snapped. I haven't worked hard building my business, finding someone who truly loves me. That's different, Mom said, brushing it off. You're always so capable. Kate needs our support more. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly. And I don't need support, it's my wedding day. Be reasonable, Dad said. There will be plenty of people at your wedding. Kate's graduation is more important right now. More important. Those words hit me like a slap. I left that dinner early. I cried the whole drive home. When I walked into our apartment, Daniel was waiting. One look at me and he knew. They're not coming, are they? I shook my head. Daniel took my hands and looked me straight in the eyes. Then we'll make it so beautiful, so unforgettable, that they'll regret missing it for the rest of their lives. That's when something inside me changed. All my life, I'd been the one who understood, who gave in, who stayed quiet. Not this time. Not on my wedding day. I looked at him and said, yes, we will. Photos of the wedding preparations were everywhere. Beautiful pictures of the custom-made bridesmaids' dresses. The hand-built flower arch for the ceremony. And Philip's amazing cake that looked like something out of a dream. During one of my mom's rare phone calls, I brought it up. Did you see this week's article? I asked. They're comparing it to Grace Kelly's wedding. Isn't that amazing? She was quiet for a second, then said slowly, Olivia, don't you think this is getting a little excessive? I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Oh no, I said sweetly, this is just the beginning. 3 weeks before the wedding, Kate called. She never liked confrontation. She usually let Mom and Dad do the talking, so I was surprised. Liv, she said in a soft voice, I saw the magazine photos. It all looks incredible. Thank you, I replied. I talked to my advisor, she added. There's another graduation ceremony in July. I could switch. Don't bother. I cut her off before she could finish. It's too late. The plans are already set. Mom and Dad feel terrible, she said quietly. No, they don't, I said. They feel uncomfortable, because now people are talking, and for once, they can't control the story about our perfect family. There was silence. I never meant to always come first, she whispered. But you did, I said, my voice firm, and you let it happen. Now you all get to live with that choice. The week before the wedding, my phone was filled with messages from relatives and family friends. All asking the same thing. How can you go through with this without your parents there? Can't you just move the date? Family comes first. I didn't reply. I saved them in a folder on my phone called for later. Daniel found me late at night in my office, checking the wedding timeline. You okay? He asked gently. I looked up at him, his kind eyes, his calm face. You know what? I said, I really am. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to keep the peace. I'm not being the good daughter, the quiet one, the understanding one. I'm just being me. He smiled and said, that's the woman I fell in love with, not the planner, not the people pleaser, just you. 2 days before the wedding, the final piece of my plan came together. My friend at the magazine called to confirm everything. Full-page coverage, top photographers, real-time social media updates every hour. The whole city will be watching, she promised. Perfect, I said, thinking of Mom's habit of checking Instagram every few minutes. Make sure to get lots of photos of the empty front row seats. The day before the wedding, I got a text from Dad. It's not too late to change the date. I didn't argue. I just sent back a picture of the setup, twinkling lights, crystal trees, and floating candles over the reflection pool. You're right, it's not too late to change your minds. But it is too late to fix your image. He didn't reply. That night at the rehearsal dinner, Daniel's parents gave a lovely speech welcoming me into their family. I didn't cry until his mom hugged me and whispered, we'll be in the front row tomorrow, sweetheart, we'll be right there. Later that night, back at our apartment, I found Daniel adding something to his vows. Little spoiler, he grinned. I added a line about choosing you, First, every day, no matter what. I smiled through tears. In that moment, I fell in love with him all over again. The morning of my wedding arrived, clear and bright. I sat in the bridal suite, surrounded by my closest friends and Daniel's family. My phone buzzed with one last message from my mom. The graduation starts in an hour. We really wish we could be there too. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My gown was hand-beaded, my makeup perfect, my hair softly curled around my shoulders. I typed back 3 words. No, you don't. Then I turned my phone off. It was time for my moment. And I wasn't going to let them ruin it. When I stood at the entrance to the garden, even I was amazed. Marco's crystal trees sparkled in the sun. The path was lined with glowing orbs that looked like stars floating above the ground. Daniel's father walked up in his tuxedo and offered me his arm. Every bride deserves someone by her side, he said. You ready, sweetheart? I looked at the empty chairs in the front row, the ones meant for my family. Each one held a single white rose. I took a deep breath. Perfect, ready, I said, taking his arm. The music started, our custom version of 1,000 Years. Not the usual version, but a soft, magical one that filled the garden like a dream. As we entered, 400 guests stood up, many gasped. My dress shimmered with every step. The long veil floated behind me like a cloud. But it was Daniel's face that made me stop for a second. He stood at the altar, crying openly, looking at me like I was the only light in the world. In that moment, I forgot about the empty chairs. Forgot about family drama, about revenge, about magazine stories. All I saw was him. The ceremony was everything I dreamed. As we said our vows under a glowing arch of flowers and candles, the lighting shifted. We were wrapped in gold, like something from a storybook. The cameras clicked, catching every perfect second. I choose you, Daniel said. First. Every day. When it's easy, and when it's hard. When the world says we're wrong, I still choose you. Forever. I saw his mom wiping away tears in the front row. The reception was breathtaking. As night fell, the lights twinkled across the garden like 1,000 stars. Philip's cake was 6 tiers, hand-painted, with a galaxy tear that spun slowly. Eduardo's cocktails changed color in the glass. The dance floor lit up under our feet. And yes, every detail was photographed, posted, and shared online instantly. I knew Mom was watching from wherever she was, seeing what she'd missed. The magazine team posted photo after photo, each one more beautiful than the last. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Kate. Mom's been crying for hours. The party's ruined. This isn't what I wanted. I handed the phone to Daniel. Deal with it for me. He tucked it away. Because this was my moment. And I wasn't letting anyone take it from me. The next morning, as we packed for our honeymoon, the magazine headlines were everywhere. Wedding of the century. Event planner's dream wedding goes viral. Pictures of the empty seats, with those white roses, were front and center. One article read, "In a world that values family above all, what does it say when parents skip their daughter's wedding for a college graduation?" My parents were getting flooded with calls and messages. How could you miss it? What were you thinking? Your own daughter's wedding? Their perfect family image? Shattered. Nobody cared about Kate's graduation anymore. Not when they could talk about my wedding, the wedding they had skipped. Mom kept calling as we boarded our flight to Bali. I let every call go to voicemail. One said, "Olivia, please. We made a terrible mistake." Kate messaged too. "The photos are amazing. I should have changed the ceremony. I'm so sorry. And Dad?" His voice cracked as he said, "We didn't know it would be like this." But that was the truth, wasn't it? They never knew. Never saw me. Never understood what I was capable of. They chose Kate again. And this time, they paid the price. 2 weeks later, sitting on a beach in Bali, I finally listened to all the messages. Hundreds of them. Full of guilt, regret, apologies. Should we invite them to the reception back home? Daniel asked gently. I thought for a second. Then shook my head. No. They made their choice. Let them live with it. Not worried about burning bridges? He asked. They burned it a long time ago, I said. I just showed them what they left behind.